a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but the beauty a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but
What is up, fantasy football fools? We are back with another recap. We are going to be going through the week 6 games. Not a great week for me, but we did have some pretty good games going on this week. I'm sure we'll dive into yours and Nick's game here first. So, how you feeling coming out of week 6?
I feel good. 5-1 is a great record, the best record in the league, tied with Johnny. But I really didn't get to watch too much football. But the things I saw were, of course, Stefon Diggs had a good day. Breece Hall, I saw that touchdown late. But Amon-Ra St. Brown was a big reason I won. 30 ball. Just a great week by the squad. Not as consistent as I'd like. I wish Zay Flowers. I started that. I was debating that all week, but still got the dub. Nick put up a fight though. Dak had a great Monday night game, and all his people scored double digits except the defense and kicker. And usually that spells pretty good. But your kicker or his kicker, 1 point. Defense didn't do bad, but I think the kicker really. I think Jake Elliott's been one of the best kickers all year too.
Yeah, this game ended up being a lot closer than it looked like it was going to be going into that Monday night game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if he just would have got a little bit more out of the kicker, he could have pulled it off.
Yeah, so I mean, Nick is 3-3 now, so he's actually fallen off. I think he was 3-0, if I'm not mistaken.
He was on a tear at the beginning of the season. I know he's putting up some crazy scores.
I think he has our highest scoring game, which was I think maybe 170 somewhere in that, like week 2, I think it was. But Christian McCaffrey got hurt. That's probably didn't help him in the third quarter, I was told. So I don't know. Nick still has a really good team. I like this team. I'm glad I got out of it with a dub. But my team just needs to find a little bit more consistency. But I can't complain much with a 5-1 record.
Yeah, pretty good few weeks you've been stringing together here. Nick kind of going the opposite direction, but like you said, still got a pretty solid team. Christian McCaffrey going down certainly didn't help. That could have turned the tides a lot for sure. But this was honestly a really good game. I mean, like I said, coming into Monday night, it looked like you kind of had a pretty good grip on the whole thing. And then Dak Prescott gets that big rushing touchdown, and it was like, Nick might try to make a little push Monday night. If the defense would have stuffed them a little bit more, this could have been really interesting. But a good game overall, pretty high scoring between both of you. So good week from both of you guys, and we'll see if Nick can turn things around and get back on the winning side of things.
Yeah, and I was looking to see if I think he had a top half scoring of the week. So yeah, tough loss for Nick, but I mean his team still looks all right. So then we'll go to your game. This game was pretty close throughout the week. Monday night, you needed a little bit more from the kicker. But how do you feel about this game?
Speaking of teams that need to get back on the winning side of things, that's where I come in. This was a big game versus Jeff. I was really hoping to get the dub. Just couldn't pull it out. My wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy and Mingo, sucked ass. Not having Tank Dell out there was a kind of a sore spot in the flex, and Jahmyr Gibbs has been out for 2 weeks in a row now. So the flex spot was not looking good coming into this. Travis Kelce and ETN tried to keep me in it. It was close to the end, but Justin Herbert kind of fumbled the bag. I mean, it looked great after that first drive. He gets that touchdown, but then the Chargers literally couldn't do shit for the rest of the game until like the very end. They scored another one, but just a tough L here. I really thought Ramondre Stevenson went down in like the second quarter. He had 5 points. And I was like, I never am rooting for someone to get hurt, but if he could just sit out the rest of the game, that'd be great. And he comes back in, scores a touchdown, drops 18. And had he not done that, I think I would have won barely. And so that's tough. That's tough. Jeff didn't even have this guy on his roster. I made fun of the trade, but it actually ends up getting him the dub. And
I think if he doesn't make that trade, because Mark Andrews, I think, only had like 12 points, and he probably would have played a bum at running back.
Yeah.
So I mean, Hunter Henry didn't do well, but We'll see what Mark Andrews put up on our Lubasi. I think he was only like 12 or maybe even less than that. So I think without that trade, I think you beat him.
Yeah, it was a close game, just a tough L for me. A.J. Brown and Jacoby Myers were both playing at the same time, and those guys were just racking up points like nobody's business. And that's when I kind of started to lose hope coming into Monday night. I didn't have high hopes that I was going to get the dub, but I didn't. So Justin Herbert, I needed like a 30 ball from him. My kicker sucked dick. So Cameron,
I got to ask you a question. Do you like the QB and kicker same team combo?
I kind of do think like going into the season, I thought that was a good strategy because it's a good offense, but it's not proving to do very well for me because the Chargers, which I guess I didn't consider, go for it a lot on fourth down when they're in field goal range, which doesn't play well into my kicker's hand. So no, I'm not loving it right now. I don't know. I'm thinking about possibly replace. I tried to get Dustin Hopkins this week, but someone got him before me on waivers. So I am in the market for possibly replacing my kicker. And this matchup was definitely a little bit of a catalyst towards doing that. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. But I definitely need to get some shit figured out. I did make a big trade, which we can talk about some trades at the end because there's been quite a few.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then you get Gibbs back this week, hopefully without David Montgomery, but we'll see how his usage is because they haven't been using him too much. So, but yeah, let's talk about Jeff's team a little bit. Jeff's team, solid game, except that tight end spot. Hunter Henry, I don't know why people keep starting that guy. He just does not do well. I think he had one or two.
He had like one good game.
Two good
games, and then just like
3 points.
Sucks.
So I think Jeff might look for a tight end. There's a couple. I just picked up Mayer. I'm surprised he didn't get Mayer, but I'm surprised Mayer was still out there when I got him this morning. But no, solid team, solid game. His running backs actually put up really good stats. Derrick Henry had that really big run that really kind of opened up the game. I did watch the London game, made sure I watched that game. But I don't know, this team, I think, got better from the trade. I don't know. I like you. I really didn't like the trade when it happened, but Stevenson hasn't been that good this year. He just had a really good game.
No, this is his highest freaking score of the season. Yeah. Of course, he dropped for 3 single-digit games in a row, and then drops an 18 on me.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's got Buffalo and then Miami. That's going to be like a shootout just because of the running back. So we'll see. This was a weak defense too, so it was a good trade for the week. But we'll see how that trade pans out the rest of the year. But he's got really good wide receivers. This team can make some noise if it keeps getting wins.
Yeah, good win by Jeff. Tough loss by me. Hopefully I can get things figured out because we're heading towards a dark path right now.
Yeah, then we'll go to the next game. This is just the most live. I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about Chris's team too much because there's just not too much to talk about. But he also made a trade that kind of shake things up. And me and him were talking a lot about a trade that just didn't end up happening. So, Chris, I mean, tough loss, tough score, the lowest I've ever seen in PPR. 58's a tough score. I don't know what else to say about your team, Chris.
58's a tough score in non-PPR. And man, I know we've seen some 40s in the past before, so this isn't the lowest we've ever seen, but being this our first year in full PPR, this is the lowest score we've seen this season. And it was just a tough day for him. I mean, Justin Fields goes down. He wasn't looking great before he went down anyway. Deebo Samuel, I think, got hurt early. T. Higgins hasn't been doing anything this year, except for like outside of one game maybe. But just a tough week for Chris. And then Johnny on the other side, obviously, not a tough week.
Yeah, Johnny had a great week. It looks like this tight end position is trouble for a lot of people, except a couple of teams with the top tight ends. Kittle, I mean, you'd think would be a top 5, maybe top 7 tight end, and I don't think he's had a good year. But if Johnny can figure out this tight end spot,
he's had some good games though. Kittle, I feel like every year is one of those guys like you just kind of got to ride the wave. He does have obviously the down games. He's had 2 with 1, but you always hope for that 3 touchdown type game. Drops to 27 last week, so yeah, I feel like he's good, just very inconsistent. Still a top 10 tight end, but you just kind of got to ride the wave with that guy.
Yeah, and I think Kenneth Walker might be the steal of the draft. I think he was around the 4th round. Top 10 running back. I was kind of down on him this year, but 5th round running back. He's shown out.
Double digits every week.
Yep. And that's all you can really ask for. And I think I have Charbonnet, and just looking at the snap counts and percentage times on the field, I mean, Kenneth Walker's just dominating that backfield. So he's doing really well with the touches he gets, and he's always on the field. So you can't really ask too much more on a running back. Madison's a little, I don't think he's great. He hasn't done great. He hasn't done
Not too bad.
Just solid all around. He's got a lot of fumbles. Cam
Just
Akers
like a solid RB2.
Yeah, Cam Akers hasn't really stole too many carries from him, but I mean, he's got the best wide receiver in the league, so you really can't lose too much with these scores.
That guy's averaging 26 fantasy points a game. That is just gnarly. This guy cannot be stopped. You want to talk about steal the draft? That might have been the best first round pick that was on the board.
5th overall. Yeah, I really wanted Tyreek too, but I mean, I had this pick 8, I think, pick 7, whatever it was. Man, was I really wanting him, but oh well. Johnny got him, 5th pick. So far, probably the best pick in the draft, like you said. We'll see how Johnny goes. 5-1 with me. I think he started exactly the same last year. I know we talked about this last week, but this is where he gets in trouble.
Yeah, he said something earlier this week about how he's trying not to fall off the cliff like he did last year. So we'll see if he can keep it going. I know he was dropping a lot higher than 118s earlier this season, so his scores are starting to go down a little bit, but still he's getting the wins, and 118 is not a bad score by any means. So good win by Johnny here, though he didn't really need many points to win this week.
He did not. He probably could have just played Tyreek and would have been all right. And a couple other guys. But all right, so we'll go to the next game, James and Jimmy. This wasn't fairly close, but James had the score of the week with 143. We'll just call it 144. I don't know. James's team is looking really good, and that quarterback position is not good for him, but his team is just putting up points.
Yeah, he is. I think he started off rough this year, and he's just been on a hot streak, going crazy. His guys are really turning it on. Kyron Williams has been a phenomenal guy this year, even though he's hurt now and no longer on James's team. But he's been a great running back for him to have. Pollard's been a little bit up and down, but he had a good week this week. Desmond Ridder, like you said, the quarterback spot's a little weak, but gives him a 16, which was obviously enough to keep him in this one by a long shot. And, yeah, James's team's firing on all cylinders right now. He's looking really good.
Yeah, and then going to Jimmy's team, just looking at this team, I think it should be a lot better than the scores he's put up. I know he's got he benched his top 2 wide receivers, though Deshaun didn't play, so Amari Cooper was probably a good bench, but he did score 14 points, so that was actually pretty good. But I don't know, this team just looks like it should be better than 2-4, and he doesn't really have – I think he's probably a little middle of the pack or even less with the points combined for the season. But this team just looks like it should be better. Yeah,
he's got some big names on there. David Montgomery, though, goes down in this one. So not as good as he's been doing. He's been killing it this year. Kamara's been kind of, I feel like, average to just kind of up and down, but he had a good week this week. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he only got 6 carries in this game. So that's a tough injury to take because, like I said, David Montgomery's been just eating in that Lions backfield.
Right.
So that's a tough loss for Jimmy. CJ Stroud at QB with Deshaun out, not a bad fill-in, but has kind of a down week. A nice little stack with Stroud and Collins. They didn't do too terrible. But, this team looks better than the scores that he's been putting up, I feel like. I agree with you there.
Yeah, and I don't know, the Philly receivers and even the tight end with Goddard, it's just you got to ride those waves like we kind of said with Kittle. He's had some good games when talking about Smith, really good games, and then he's just been kind of falling off here the last 2 weeks. So Jimmy has some soul searching to do 2-4. I don't know who he plays this. I think he plays you this week, right?
He does not play me. No, I got Rudy.
Jimmy's going to have to find a win. Those 2-4 teams, the 1-5 teams are kind of, I wouldn't say they're must-win territory, but you really don't want to take another loss this early in the season because it's just so hard to get back up there.
I think those 1-5 teams. I think you're definitely teetering on must-win territory.
Right.
Like, you got to be hitting the panic button at this point. You're down to single-digit playoff percent. Even me at 2-4, like I feel like one more loss and it's season over for me. I know it's probably not technically, but yeah, I mean, all of us down there at the bottom are definitely feeling the pressure, I think.
Yeah, I'm 1-5 for sure, 2-4. Yeah, you just don't. If you're like one of those teams, you just don't want to take a look. Like you could probably take maybe 2 more losses max. You just don't want to take one of those losses like this week because it's so
Exactly.
early.
Yeah, you're thinking probably 6 max, and
Right.
that's probably going to be one or two worst teams that are going to make the playoffs, or with 6 losses. So getting to that by like week 8, that's no good.
And I know this week and the next, couple. I mean, I know this week is the worst bye weeks because it's 6 teams on a bye, but I know 9, 10, 11 are really bad for some people. So once you hit those buys, those are tough too. And
Yep.
must-win games, you don't have your best player. That's tough.
Yeah, it's going to be the next few weeks are going to be brutal. We're all going to be in the trenches with bye weeks. So big games coming up here, fellas, as we get into this next one. We got 2 4-2 teams here. So these guys are sitting pretty right now. Dom's had a pretty up and down year, takes an L here, but he's still sitting at 4-2 because he's just hasn't been putting up a lot of points, but he's found the ways to win. But he couldn't pull it off this week.
Yeah, he played Chewy, which I probably think has the best team, all-around team. Even though he's 4-2, he's taken some really bad losses the first 2 weeks. But Devontae Adams has kind of fallen off. I know he's been complaining about his touches all week. The last 2 weeks have been very bad. After his big 42 game, he's just kind of fallen off to single digits. And that's the 10th pick of the draft, 11th pick of the draft. So Chewy, I mean, he's got Cooper Kupp, and then he's got Justin Jefferson down here. So his wide receiver room is stacked once Jefferson comes back, if he comes back. This team is really good. Raheem Mostert was probably the trade of the year so far. I know you traded him, but this is just a great trade by Chewy.
Probably one of my worst trades ever. Obviously at the time it didn't look as bad as it turned out, but man, Jerry Jeudy for Raheem Mostert, what a steal.
And 9th pick, that was a great pick by you too, and it just a little too early on the trigger there. And I kind of did the early on the trigger too with Keenan, but I had a little bit more reason just because I needed a running back really bad. But that was a pretty bad trade though too. But so Chewy's sitting really pretty. I don't want to face this team. I hope I don't face this team.
I got to play him twice.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, some of your must-win games are against some really good teams. But yeah, so we'll see how Chewy goes. I think. Do you agree that you think this is the best team in the league?
I mean, so far at this point in the season, I definitely think he's up near the top. Just because he's just putting up solid points pretty much every week. I don't think he's put up under 100 once. And he did take a couple tough L's, but not because his score was bad. He just got caught up in some bad matchups. And yeah, so I think this is definitely one of the strongest teams. I mean, I think him and Johnny are probably right there. You are probably not quite at the top, but you're up there in the conversation at least. I think you've just pulled out some good wins with some not crazy scores too.
Yeah.
I definitely think your team's up there in the conversation, but Chewy's up there in like the top, at least somewhere in like the top 2 conversation of teams.
Yeah, and I know Nick has the most points, but he's really fallen off. But I mean, of course, when you're dropping 160s and 180s and 140s.
What did go back and look and see what Joe Burrow scored, because I did see that Dom benched him. I can't remember if this is the second week that he's benched him. Okay, so he only got a 13. I will say the Bengals have been looking a lot better the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a bad year to pick the Bengals stack for Dom. This is not working out super well.
But he has survived. So if Bengals could just, like you said, they've been playing better. So if they can turn it up, I know they have the bye week this week because I played Dom, thankfully, because all his people are on byes basically. But if the Bengals can figure something out during this bye week and flip the switch, this team is very good. And he also made a trade that we'll look at as we go to the next game. So we have a little bit more time to talk about those trades. Yep. We'll talk about the toilet bowl this week.
Toilet bowl.
Lubasi edges them out by 5. This was a really close. I was keeping my eye on this game with the Giants game because Saquon versus James Cook. James Cook has been terrible like the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, not the last 3 or 4, but the last couple weeks for sure. Yeah, his usage has also just gone down. I see a lot of people on Twitter talking about, his time on the field and how Latavius and even Damian Harris, though he got hurt, were eating at his carries the last couple weeks. But Saquon almost pulled it off. He almost got a touchdown. I think it was like early fourth quarter, maybe late third quarter at the 1 yard line. Or no, that was before halftime. And the Giants just soiled it. But if he would have scored that touchdown, Rudy would have won.
We got a different winner here. And in true toilet bowl fashion, we have like a guy barely breaks 100 and a guy barely misses 100. Like, this game couldn't have lived up to the expectations that we thought going into it better than it did. I mean, 102 to 97. I mean, not great weeks from either of them, but Bossie's got to be happy coming out of this with a dub, and Rudy sitting at 1-5. He's got to be looking at the panic button at this point.
Right, and also we said Mark Andrews, he got a 10, so Ramondre Steven got about 8-7 more points, and you lost by 9. So give or take a couple other starts, Jeff had a really good trade. But also, Lubasi wouldn't have won this game without the trade for Justin Jefferson as well. So that was a very good trade in the short term. We'll see how it works in the long term. I think Chewy, with his record and his lineup, is going to win long term if Justin Jefferson actually plays. But to get Thielen for Justin Jefferson was a very good get.
At least for this week.
I mean, Thielen's been a top 5? Top 3.
No, receiver. Thielen after week 1 has just been a stud. That guy, I mean, I actually had a trade offer from Chewy for Thielen that I turned down, which I actually would have won this week had I done it. But it's tough to look back at some of those, but sometimes you just got to go with your gut,
Yeah, so good trade. I know Thielen's on a bye, and Lubasi plays Jeff this week, so that's going to be tough. Hopefully Lubasi, because Lubasi's 2-4, so he's panic button already, made some moves, and we'll see how he does. So, all right, we'll go to
definitely got to
talk about some of these trade
points. I know he's got to be somewhere towards the bottom in the points for.
Yeah, we'll look at that really fast before talking about trades. So here's our records, the percentage chance. Chris is at 7, Rudy's at 6, so we're in double digits. But we'll go to points here. So there's a pretty big 5 here. So remember, only 4 teams get that mini game to get through. But those are the points. You can see the top teams. Nick has just been dominant in a couple weeks, and that's why he's kind of plastered up there. But Jimmy's actually got the lowest points. I know it was Dom. So Dom actually jumped 4 points with his 115.
Well, Jimmy put up a pretty low score this week, and Chris put up a 50, so I'm not surprised that he jumped those 2 guys. And there's Lubasi in the bottom 3, kind of like I figured. He's just got to get it figured out. I'm not trying to throw shade. I know we kind of have like a bitter rivalry, but going to a ship, he's got to get it figured out if he wants to get there.
So you're at 7. So 2-4 in half the league. That's not too bad. I mean, it is bad because you want wins. But so Chris is actually on a 4-game losing streak, like I said. So, or did I say that? I said somebody was on a losing streak. I forgot.
No, Chris is on a losing streak, and he's on the biggest one. So I imagine that's who you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So then here's points against. So we'll see. Dom and I have been pretty lucky. Johnny kind of too. But Rudy, Chris, even with Chris's lowest score, he's been seeing some dogs.
He has, yeah. He's been getting dropped a lot of points on. I'm down there in that category too. People have been putting up a lot of points versus me. One of those was you putting up a ton on me. But it's tough for us down there in the points against column, because sometimes you just put up a solid score and still lose. Like this week, I put up 115, took the L. And then we got guys scoring 50s.
Oh, man. That's tough. Yeah, that is. And then you got Rudy and Lubasi scoring just over and just under 100.
Man, like, just give me a favorable matchup once. Like, come on.
All right, so then here's the division. So like I keep saying, this is a pretty important stat as well. Rudy's the only one with 4 division games, and he's on 4. That does not. Oh no, we got a lot with 4 at the bottom, but
Better hope that he doesn't end up needing to win one of those or having a tiebreaker at the end because he probably ain't gonna win it.
no, unless it's against Chris. But they're both 1-5, so I don't think that's gonna happen, or else this would be a crazy league. So, all right, we're gonna do a couple of the trades. I know we haven't really done trades too much.
Almost there. Recent activity.
There we go. So we're actually just going to go through, I don't want to say all of them, but we'll kind of go through.
At least the ones from the most recent.
Yeah, so we're just going to go fly by the ones hit down here. Actually,
yeah, we can start with that Justin Jefferson one because we were talking about that that one Lubasi is toilet bowl, trading Justin Jefferson and Chuba Hubbard to get Thielen and Stevenson, who he's already traded away.
Right. So, yeah. So this is just. I mean, that had to be traded. Like he had to trade Justin Jefferson with where his team was. I mean, he had to do it. There's just no question about it. And I think he got a really good return. I would have probably. I mean, looking back, this is what I told him when the trade happened: is I would have just got the best running back because his running backs are really bad, and his wide receivers weren't too terrible. But he ended up going with Thielen. This was after the trade, so I wasn't like giving him advice before the trade. But it worked out. So that was a good trade so far. Like you said, so far. We'll see how the rest of this trade goes. I think Chewy will win this in the long run. That if Justin Jefferson actually starts playing after week 10 or 11, whatever it is, he's going to be really hard to beat in the playoffs. So we'll see how this pans out.
Yeah. I think pretty fair trade from both. I think both of them got a pretty solid return from that. But yeah, if Justin Jefferson comes back, Chewy's team is going to be real scary and that's going to be right around like playoff time too.
Mm-hmm. Now, what did you think about the Mark Andrews Stevenson trade?
So yeah, it looks like same day or day after, Lubasi turns and burns Ramondre Stevenson, sends him to Jeff with Hunter Henry from Mark Andrews. And when I first saw this, I thought, what are you doing? Like, Jeff, why are you trading for these guys? Mark Andrews is typically one of the best tight ends in the league, at least like top 5, top 3-ish. And trading for a guy, Ramondre Stevenson, who at the time 3 single-digit games in a row, and Hunter Henry, who we looked at too, who sucks cock. Like that guy, like I was just like, what in the world are you doing? But of course, because he's playing me, it pays off. Ramondre drops an 18, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, 1 week isn't going to tell what the trade is going to, turn out to be, but it worked. And I don't know, Mark Andrews hasn't really been Mark Andrews this year. He is the 4th tight end, but tight end, after Travis Kelce, it's really.
Still usually, double digits every week except for one.
Yeah,
that's about as good as you can ask for a tight end that's not Kelce.
I guess he was doing better than I actually thought. I thought he was really bad, but those are really good numbers.
Yeah, so that's why initially I'm thinking, Jeff, what are you doing? Like this is not a good trade. Granted, Jeff's been starting like 3rd-string running backs for like the last 3 weeks in his RB2 spot. So yeah. I guess if you're desperate, you got to do what you got to do. He makes the trade, and it helps him get a win this week. So all in all, I suppose it was a good move.
Yep. And then the next trade, we'll talk about the next 3. Brian Robinson Jr. for Jared Goff. Now, this is interesting. I don't really know what Nick is doing here. I know Dak hasn't been, great, and Jared Goff has been better than expected. I think he's a top 5. Okay, top 5. Like some of these people are just crazy that I guess I'm not really expecting these big numbers. But I don't know. To give up a starting running back, Brian Robinson Jr. is getting most of the carries. I know they got Antonio Gibson, but they haven't really utilized him as much in the offense as people thought. But I don't know. Dak, I don't know. What do you think about this? I feel like this trade is a win for Lubasi.
I do think it was a win for Lubasi. He's got Tua. Tua's been doing really well. Jared Goff, I think in that aspect is expendable in Lubasi's eyes. So I think this is a good move to get a running back. Like if someone's willing to make the trade, I think it's a good move for him. From Nick's side, yeah, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you. I'm not sure if he's like starting to panic on Dak, although he goes off this week, so he might be regretting it now. But Jared Goff's been having a good year, so I guess he was seeing that and thinking maybe he's going to replace Dak in the future. So a lot of angles to look at it, but I do think overall that this is probably a win for Lubasi's team to get a running back.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, I mean, his running back core is terrible. He's trying Najee out there and being confident about it, and it's just not good. So, all right, we'll go to the next. So, next two big trades, pretty big trades. We'll kind of go through them. The one with Chris and Dom. So Dom gets Romeo Dobbs, Deebo Samuel, Jonathan Taylor, and then Chris gets Pitts, Herbert, and Olave. And initially, like when I look at this trade, I think, oh man, Dom got a steal. But I think it's a pretty fair trade. I think Deebo hasn't been great, and I think Chris just needs some consistency in that wide receiver room, and he's got running backs on deck. So to get Olave, I think Olave's been pretty good. I think he's had one really bad game. I think he got hurt in that game. That 1.4, he got hurt in that game, I think, or maybe the week 5 game he got hurt. But he got hurt in some game or before a game. And I think Olave gives Chris at least some consistency at that position.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a fairly just kind of even trade to balance out what each team needed. I mean, Romeo Dobbs is kind of a throwaway, but I feel like kind of the same for Khalil Herbert, especially because he's hurt right now. But he definitely has potential. He's the number 1 running back in Chicago when he's healthy. And Kyle Pitts has kind of been up and down. That offense is just, you never know what you're going to get out of that Falcons offense. Mm-hmm. So, but if Kyle Pitts is getting targets like he has been like the last week or two, could pan out for Chris to have him on the team too. And I mean, I think Jonathan Taylor and Chris Olave were kind of the big punches of this trade. And I think it's, I guess 1 for 1. Jonathan Taylor hasn't been getting a ton of volume yet. So we'll see if that changes and pays off for Dom. But yeah, overall, I think pretty solid, even trade here.
I agree with that. Then we'll go to the trade you made with James. You kind of just gave each other stacks with Keenan Allen and Herbert, and then Christian Watson and Jordan Love, if he keeps trotting Jordan Love out there, that is. And then Pacheco goes to James, as well as Kyren Williams goes to you. And Kyren Williams is actually out for like 3-4 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, till after the bye. He's going to IR.
Yeah, so week 11. So I think you paid a pretty hefty price for Keenan Allen. But once Kyren Williams comes back, hopefully you can survive these 4 weeks without him. But to lose Pacheco, who's been a top 10, close to a top 10 running back, and then Watson, who's starting to ramp up a little bit. We'll see how this trade goes. I don't want to say – I mean, this is an even trade for sure, but I want to see how you do without Kyren Williams with the spot you're in at 2 and 4. This is interesting.
Yeah, me and James were talking for quite a few back and forths, trying to figure out what we want to do with this trade. I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to do, because we talked about a smaller one too. I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to do this full one, but to get Kyren Williams in the deal, I know he's hurt. He's going to be out a few weeks, but if he comes back healthy and keeps playing like he has been, that'll be huge for me, and especially to replace Pacheco. And if Gibbs can just step up while Montgomery's out for maybe a week or two, I think I can get by. And then Keenan Allen, blows Christian Watson out of the water as far as receiver goes, the way he's been playing. So I'm hoping it pays off. We'll see. I needed a number 1 wide receiver so bad, so I kind of had to make a move at 2 and 4. I feel like I needed to change. I needed to change something. James came to me with the deal, so we got it worked out, and we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, I know Lubasi talked or said something in our chats saying that you won the trade, but when I looked at it, I was like, you know what, Kyren Williams out for a while. Ryan might struggle.
I definitely don't think it's lopsided either way.
No, yeah, because you got to start winning, and like you said, once you get a couple you can't afford a couple more losses, so it should be interesting. You got Rudy this week, who isn't been great. I don't know who you got after that, so maybe your schedule is a little on the easy side.
It is.
I guess we can figure that out right now. But you just gotta string some.
That kind of played
over.
into my thought too. Is my next few weeks might be a little rough, but I got a fairly easy road for the next few weeks, so I'm hoping that we can put something together.
Yeah, so you got Rudy, Jimmy, and then you start seeing some dogs with Nick and Chewy, and then you'll get them back around this area. I think week 11, you said.
Yep.
So hopefully, I mean, you got to go 3-1.
That would be great. I would like to go 4-0 actually. So.
But I mean, if you go 2-2, and then you got Chris, Dom, Johnny, and then this is you don't play me. You play your whoever you're by in the standings. But yeah, 2 losses. I think 3-1 has to be your best, what you're aiming for at minimum.
Yeah, well, and when the trade went through, my projection went up, not down. So
good.
Hopefully Keenan Allen pays off enough to make that worth it for the few weeks I got to hold out till Kyron comes back. But overall, I think fairly good trade between me and James, and we both got a nice stack out of it.
Yep. So we'll go to the week 7 matchups really quick, and then we're probably running out of time. So we got Dom versus me, Jeff versus Lubasi, which is a big game there. Chris versus Jimmy, Rudy versus Ryan. Kind of must-win games there. That's gonna be a sour loss. Whoever loses that game.
Yeah, that's not gonna be good.
Chewy versus Nick, which is probably the game of the week. Oh, maybe it looks like James has a lot of buys because his projection is 104. But Johnny versus James.
Yeah, looking forward to week 7. I feel like I'm in must-win territory. I know Rudy's in must-win territory, so that's gonna be sparks gonna be flying in that game. And we got Jeff versus Lubasi, which should be a good one. Jeff could really throw a dagger into Lubasi's season as well if he gets that dub there. A lot of good games. I know. And then Chris and Jimmy, that's going to be a good game too, because both of those guys have been struggling a little bit. So we'll see what happens there, because I know both of those guys probably feel like they're in must-win territory, similar to me and Rudy, 2-4 versus a 1-5. So. We got a good week of matchups here. A lot of implications on the line. Some people are going to be walking away crying, and I hope I'm not one of them.
Yeah, and then me and Dom are kind of just chilling, and then so is Johnny and James. Like, we can lose and be all right. So maybe not the 4-2 teams, but more so just the